Sigh. I'm exhausted. Completely drained. Despite his monthly salary barely reaching 2 million won, Sejun manages to save 1 million won each month by cutting down on living expenses after paying his rent and student loan installments. This has allowed him to accumulate a sum of 12 million won in his savings account. However, even though this is a considerable amount, it falls short of Sejun's goal. Phew. When will I ever be able to buy a ticket? Can I even afford one? Sejun sighed, overwhelmed by his challenging objective. A mysterious 99-story black tower appeared out of nowhere in the heart of Gangnam, Seoul, 10 years ago. The tower boasted geometric patterns and a structure defying the laws of physics. Towers of a similar nature appeared simultaneously in 100 cities across the globe. Although each country conducted an investigation into the tower that emerged within their borders, they reaped little benefit from their findings. The information they uncovered revealed that the tower stood 990 meters tall, constructed from a material so strong that even a nuclear bomb couldn't damage it, and had no visible entrance. In an unexpected turn of events, people started emerging from the tower one by one. They seemed to pass through the walls of the tower naturally. Investigators swiftly identified these individuals, learning that they were people who had recently vanished. How did you enter the tower? Responding to the investigators' questions, they explained that they hadn't entered the tower but had been sucked into a black hole. When they regained consciousness, they found themselves on the first floor of the tower. Thus, information about the tower began to unfold through the accounts of those who emerged from it. Like the 100 towers are interconnected as a single entity. Upon entering the tower, you awaken and assume the role of either a magician or a warrior. Monsters inhabit the tower from the second floor upward, growing stronger as the floors ascend. Rewards are given for clearing each floor, with the value of rewards increasing with each level. However, there are no rewards for clearing the same floor twice. No one understood the purpose of these towers. But one thing was certain: climbing the tower generated wealth. Items obtained within the tower fetched high prices on Earth. Among the items was something called a ticket. Tickets were one of the primary sources of income for the awakened, with a high probability of obtaining one or more tickets upon clearing a floor. Those who had already awakened didn't require a ticket to enter the tower. However, ordinary people with tickets could access the tower. Once inside the tower, they would awaken and gain the qualification to ascend. Consequently, tickets were neither cheap nor easy to acquire. In Korea, for example, the Korean Awakened Association purchased tickets from hunters in bulk and resold them. The price was set at 150 million won per ticket. Due to high demand, news surfaced that the price would soar to 200 million won within a week. Hundreds of people had already paid in advance, eagerly awaiting their chance to purchase a ticket. I can't give up! Upon seeing frequent news about people getting rich through tower tickets, Sejun made a bold decision. Grow crops at home. It was a way to tighten his belt even further. He didn't intend to cultivate anything extraordinary. He planned to grow a few low-maintenance plants to save on living expenses. I'll start today. With that, he bought some green onions and a few other items at the supermarket before heading home. Sejun hummed a tune, filled with determination. If I start growing fruits and vegetables at home, I can save a lot on food expenses and enjoy an abundance of produce. This is how I'll save money to buy a ticket and enter the tower. Then I'll earn loads of money in the tower for Sarang and me. Sejun daydreamed about Sarang, a member of Korea's top girl group Moonlight Fairy. In other words, it was Sejun's own fantasy. While Sejun was lost in his daydream and walking with a goofy grin, a black hole appeared in the empty space in front of him. And then, whoosh! It began to suck in everything around it. What? What is this? Sejun was greatly startled upon discovering the black hole, which didn't reveal its other side. It's a vanishing! Vanishing was a phenomenon where people were sucked into the tower. All the first awakened ones went through a vanishing. Anyway, it's very fortunate, harder to come by than winning the lottery. Sejun hurriedly sent messages to his family, worried that they might look for him if he disappeared without a word. When he finished sending the messages, "Why am I still here? Even if I got sucked into a hole, I should have been sucked in a long time ago." Sejun kept staring at the black hole, waiting for it to take him. But there was no sign that the suction force was getting stronger. "Hurry up and take me already!" "Huh! Why is it shrinking?" The hole was even closing. "No! My future!" "Sarang!" Sejun made up his mind. The future was for pioneers. "That's right! I'm going in!" Sejun charged into the hole. With that, he disappeared into the pitch-black darkness. "Where am I?" As soon as Sejun exited the hole, he realized something was off. The information he heard about the first floor of the tower was very different from what he saw. On the first floor of the tower, there were supposed to be luxurious chandeliers lighting up the area, white marble floors, a spacious plaza with shops selling equipment and potions, and training centers where warriors and magicians could learn skills. But this place was a cave made of rocks, not even a single shop or training center in sight. The only similarity with the first floor of the tower was that it was spacious. The only saving grace was that there was no luxurious chandelier lighting, but a single beam of sunlight illuminated the cave through a hole in the ceiling. "Let's find the exit first." Sejun looked around for a way out. The first place he marked as a potential exit was the hole in the cave ceiling. However, climbing the wall to reach the arched hole in the ceiling seemed impossible, unless he was Spider-Man. "Let's look for another place." Sejun placed his bag on a rock and began to explore the cave. A moment later. "Why is this place so vast?" The cave was much more extensive than he had thought. The far end of the cave was so dark that he could hardly see anything since the sunlight couldn't reach it. "I have to conserve power, but…" Sejun reluctantly turned on his smartphone's flashlight on a low setting and continued exploring the cave. 3 hours later. The cave exploration was over. The cave was completely blocked off in all directions. He checked every gap between the rocks and weak points, but there was no place that seemed like a possible exit. "There's no exit. Did I end up stranded?" Sejun mumbled as if he had lost his mind, and trudged back to the place where the sun was shining through the hole in the cave ceiling. "What should I do?" He had to admit it. It was impossible for him to get out of here alone. He shouted desperately towards the hole in the cave ceiling. But, "Hey, I'm here!" Sejun's desperate shout couldn't escape the hole and only circled inside the cave. "Hello? Is there someone here?" Sejun screamed until his throat was about to burst. But not a single person, let alone anything, passed by near the hole. "Damn it! Can anyone hear me?" Thump! Sejun couldn't hold back his anger and kicked the ground for no reason. And so a day had passed. Day 2 of being lost. Beep beep beep. The alarm he had set for work rang. Ugh! Sejun got up with difficulty from the uncomfortable sleeping place and turned off the alarm on his smartphone. 99 Sejun, who had just woken up, stared at the hole in the cave ceiling all day. Even after several hours had passed, no one passed by. "Is there anyone?" Sejun's shout was only reflected off the damp rocks and returned as a gloomy echo. Grr! Sejun's stomach grumbled. Although he was worried, he had to eat to survive. Ugh! I'm really hungry! He realized that he hadn't eaten anything since he left work. What should I eat? Sejun found a flat rock to sit on and settled down. And then rustle. He took out an apple wrapped in a plastic bag from his bag. It was a washed apple given to him by a coworker at the office. Thank you, Minjun. Sejun decided that if he ever got out of here, he would repay Minjun with sweet and sour pork. It's not that Minjun likes sweet and sour pork, but Sejun was craving it with black bean noodles right now. So Sejun resolved to treat Minjun to sweet and sour pork and ripped open the plastic packaging to take a big bite of the apple. Crunch! The sweet and sour juice of the apple filled his mouth. It's so delicious! As his appetite returned, his hunger became uncontrollable. Crunch! Crunch! Sijuan was devouring the apple as if he was possessed. Ah! He stared at the remaining apple core and seeds with a forlorn expression. The amount was insufficient. Thump! Thump! Sijuan dug a shallow hole with his foot and buried the apple seeds and core together. Then, he started to take out the items from his bag. A laptop, 500 milliliters of water left from the office, green onions, cherry tomatoes, and sweet potatoes he had bought to grow at home. 1, 2, 3. Sijuan began to count the cherry tomatoes in the plastic container. He wanted to accurately understand the amount of food he had. 27 cherry tomatoes, 10 green onion stalks, and 7 sweet potatoes. For now, he planted all the green onions, 3 cherry tomatoes, and 2 sweet potatoes, and left the rest as food. Cherry tomatoes have many seeds inside, so even just 3 of them can yield a lot of plants. As for sweet potatoes, they were the only available food that could provide carbohydrates, but he couldn't plant many of them. First, let's fill up my stomach. Sijuan washed a sweet potato and 5 cherry tomatoes in the small pond. It was fortunate that there was a small pond in the corner of the cave. At least he could find water. It would have been nice if there were fish too. There were no creatures the size of tadpoles in the pond. Sijuan realized there were no insects or small animals like mice in the cave either. Sijuan would normally be scared by insects or mice, but now that there were none, it felt strange. He had seen many scenes in movies where people ate insects or mice when there was no food. Really, if the food runs out, I might have to eat something like that. Of course, it would be best to escape this place before the food runs out. As he chewed the sweet potato, the crisp sound made his scattered thoughts disappear. Now was the time to focus on the sweet potato. Yum yum. It was delicious. The more he chewed, the sweeter it became. He always boiled or roasted sweet potatoes, but he thought it was fine to eat them raw sometimes. Now let's get to work. After finishing 1 sweet potato and 5 cherry tomatoes, Sijuan picked up a green onion. And then, he broke off about 1/3 of the green leafy part from the root of the onion, placed it separately on the ground. I'll eat it later. Although it wouldn't taste good, he might have to eat it to survive. Sijuan buried the white part of the onion root in the soft soil where the sunlight entered. Then he planted 2 sweet potatoes on the left side and cherry tomatoes on the right side. He simply buried the sweet potatoes in the ground and planted the seeds that came out of the crushed cherry tomatoes. He sucked the tomato juice off his hands and went to the pond. He filled a 500 milliliters water bottle with pond water and watered the crops he had just planted. When the work was finished, Sijuan lay down on a rock, looking at the ceiling, and waited for someone to pass by. He tried to minimize energy consumption due to the lack of food and occasionally shouted, "Is anyone here?" But no one passed by. Beep beep. Beep beep. Thud. Sleeping on the floor made my body so stiff. The good thing about this place is that there is no night. So if you sleep where the sun is just right, you can sleep comfortably at a pleasant temperature. Splash! Splash! Sijuan washed his face briefly at the pond. And then splash, swish, swash. He washed the sweet potatoes and cherry tomatoes he would eat today. It feels strange to wash them with the water I used to wash my face. Sijuan put aside his discomfort and bit into a sweet potato. Crunch. The more I chew, the sweeter it becomes. Did I ever have the luxury of chewing on something sweet like this without having to go to work? He sat down on a dry patch of dirt where the sun was shining, laid out his bag, and chewed on a sweet potato slowly. There was complete silence, except for the sound of chewing. His heartbeat started to slow down, and his mind also calmed down. He was lost, and his food would run out in a few days. He might starve to death. Strange. Sijuan tilted his head. He was amazed by his own feelings. But it was better than being anxious. Every time Manager Go called out Sejun, "Can you come over here for a minute?" my heart would race. But how peaceful it is now. Sejun leisurely enjoyed the sweet potato, relishing the peace that he couldn't feel easily before. Shall we move on to the next menu? After finishing the sweet potato, Sejun put a cherry tomato in his mouth and chewed. Pop! The skin of the cherry tomato couldn't withstand the pressure of Sejun's teeth and burst. Sourness filled his mouth as the juice of the cherry tomato exploded. It's delicious. It was so delicious that he doubted whether it was the same cherry tomato he usually ate. Perhaps his taste buds had become extremely sensitive due to hunger. Sejun focused solely on the taste of the cherry tomato and chewed slowly. However, chewing on the cherry tomato for a long time didn't make it taste better, so the 5 cherry tomatoes quickly disappeared into Sejun's mouth. After finishing his meal, Sejun began his daily routine. Staring at the hole in the ceiling. Sejun stared blankly at the hole in the ceiling. "Ah! I'm bored." Of course, he occasionally shouted, "Is anyone here?" But even that was done while looking at the ceiling. After staring at the ceiling for several hours, it was so tiring that he felt like he was going crazy. "Is there anything to do?" Sejun started looking for something to do. "Let's water the crops first." Sejun filled a water bottle and watered the onions, cherry tomatoes, and sweet potatoes. "Grow fast. Grow huge. Daddy is hungry." He went back and forth to the pond 3 times, thoroughly soaking the ground where the crops were planted. Then, his stomach informed him of the fuel shortage. Just moving a little made him hungry again. Sejun poured the remaining water from the water bottle into his mouth. He felt his stomach fill up a bit. Sejun returned to his spot and stared at the hole in the ceiling. After several hours, Sejun stared blankly at the ceiling when beep beep, beep beep. The alarm went off. There is no sunset here. So, he set the alarm to match his bedtime. It's time to sleep. Sejun got up and prepared for bed. There wasn't much to do in terms of preparation. Tap tap. He leveled the dirt floor where he would lie down and covered his head with his bag so he couldn't see the sun. That was the end of his bedtime preparations. Surprisingly, sleep came easily. In the middle of the night, by Sejun's standards. Sejun woke up from sleep due to the ground-shaking vibrations. What's going on? Just then, he felt another strong vibration. It was close. Sejun hurriedly removed the bag from his face and got up. And then he witnessed the bizarre scene. What is this? The light coming down from the cave ceiling had turned blue. And screech! Caw! He heard strange, threatening noises. At that moment, roar! A huge black dragon appeared in the sky and roared. The sight of it flying high alone, cutting through the blue light, was astonishingly beautiful. The black dragon roared and disappeared gracefully. The other monsters became silent, perhaps frightened by the dragon's roar. However, Sejun's mind was noisier than ever. Monsters! This can't be happening. Sejun thought something was wrong. He believed that this place was somewhere on the first floor of the tower. He wanted to believe that the light illuminating the cave all day was the chandelier lighting of the first floor of the tower. But there were no monsters on the first floor. In other words, Sejun was not on the first floor of the tower. Moreover, the blue moon, where the sun turns blue. Every floor has sunlight all day long. But on each floor, there is a periodic time when the sun turns blue. Hunters called this phenomenon the blue moon. During the blue moon, monsters become more aggressive and powerful, so hunters avoid the floors where the blue moon occurs. The blue moon is a phenomenon that occurs only on the 10th floor and above. This meant that Sejun was on the 10th floor or above. There was still a chance he could be rescued. However, there's a catch. That was the dragon. After the tower appeared 10 years ago, the Phoenix Guild, the most powerful force on Earth, recently achieved the feat of clearing the 37th floor. From the 31st to the 37th floor, guilds were keeping each other in check, so they didn't release any information. But below the 30th floor, quite a few clear videos were uploaded to YouTube for money or publicity. According to the known information, skeletons appear on floors 2 to 10, goblins on 11 to 20, orcs on 20 to 30. And from the 31st floor onwards, spider monsters appear, although no videos were released. This was credible information, as multiple hunters had mentioned it in interviews. None of them mentioned dragons. They hadn't even heard of lizard-like monsters appearing in the tower. Which floor is this? This chapter ends here. We will come back soon with the next chapter. If you like the story, please let us know and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.